The Oppenheimer dossier, triumph and tragedy. We are opening the pages of a sprawling, real-life thriller of science, war, and political betrayal. We're tracing the journey of a man who gave humanity the power to destroy itself. We're going to dive right into this complete security file to understand the incredible life, the monumental work, and the ultimate indictment against the father of the atomic bomb. To truly grasp the derogatory information used against J. Robert Oppenheimer, we'll be following this path. 1. The security hearings. 2. The quantum revolution. 3. Building Los Alamos. 4. The Trinity test. 5. The atomic aftermath. And 6. The political downfall. Section 1. The security hearings. So our story actually begins right in the middle of things. Picture a shabby, closed-door room in 1954. Oppenheimer's loyalty to the United States is, well, it's effectively on trial. Now, he's not in a proper court of law, but we are witnessing a man whose past is being entirely weaponized against him to systematically destroy his credibility. And there's this one central question that just haunts the entire proceeding. Why were his communist associations not seen as a security risk during the war? It frames everything, especially while Admiral Lewis Strauss is simultaneously facing Senate confirmation for a cabinet post. As we go through these transcripts, the board relentlessly interrogates Oppenheimer about his early left-wing ties. I mean, they desperately want to know why a man trusted with the nation's biggest secret during World War II is suddenly deemed this massive security risk in the Cold War era. Section 2. The Quantum Revolution. To really find our answers, we actually have to flash back to the 1920s. This was a time when a radical new scientific frontier was just opening up over in Europe. And that frontier was quantum mechanics, a new way to understand reality, exploring a world of energy and paradox where matter is mostly empty space. Oppenheimer brings this completely radical, paradoxical new physics back to America, and he essentially builds Berkeley's theoretical physics department from scratch. It's a field that perfectly reflects his own mind, brilliant, abstract, and totally comfortable with paradox. He's teaching his students that light can be both a particle and a wave, embracing a universe where absolute certainty is, well, impossible. During this same time, his world deeply intertwines with left-wing politics. As his brother Frank famously said, "I won't live my life afraid to make a mistake." It was a whole era of idealism. Oppenheimer's orbit includes his brother's Communist Party membership and a highly complex romance with Jean Tatlock, who was a passionate party member herself. Now, Oppenheimer doesn't officially join the party, but he donates to the Spanish Civil War and sympathizes with unionizing scientists. This leaves a long, long paper trail that the FBI quietly begins to collect. Section 3. Building Los Alamos. The story really hits the gas when news breaks that German scientists have successfully split the uranium atom. Almost overnight, it's a matter of global survival. The fear that the Nazis will build an atomic weapon first completely pivots Oppenheimer's entire trajectory. And this sparks a fascinating clash of worlds. We have J. Robert Oppenheimer, the theoretical physicist, the visionary with his left-wing ties, up against General Leslie Groves, a pragmatic military leader who demands strict security. The politically complicated Oppenheimer is recruited by Groves to direct the Manhattan Project. Look, Groves knows all about Oppenheimer's past, his theatrical ego, his total lack of administrative experience. But Groves also recognizes that Oppenheimer is literally the only visionary capable of organizing the world's greatest scientific minds to achieve the impossible. They clash immediately over compartmentalization, a strict military security protocol where scientists only know the specific part of the project they are working on. Oppenheimer argues hard against this. He insists that to beat the Nazis, the greatest minds absolutely must share ideas in a centralized, secret town. Los Alamos. Groves wants strict military silos, but Oppenheimer eventually convinces him that scientific innovation requires open discussion. So they go out and build a top-secret city in the remote mesas of New Mexico, complete with schools, homes, and a rapidly booming population of scientists and their families. The scale of this operation is just staggering. $2 billion. That's what they spend, gathering 4,000 people in the New Mexico desert to achieve a single, horrifying goal. They are completely racing against the clock, refining uranium and plutonium, and desperately trying to figure out the mind-bending mechanics of implosion before the enemy can. Section 4. The Trinity test. As the project advances, the stakes become completely existential. Our narrative narrows down to a single point in time and space, where 3 years of agonizing labor will either culminate in a massive victory, a total dud, or, terrifyingly, the literal end of the world. The pressures of Trinity were immense. They face the fear of atmospheric ignition, Edward Teller's constant distractions with the super, or the H-bomb, suspicions of espionage and communist leaks, and the impending Potsdam Conference deadline. The team is navigating these intense ideological clashes, not to mention the terrifying, though mathematically near zero, possibility that detonating the device might actually set fire to the Earth's atmosphere. Plus, President Truman absolutely needs a successful test before the Potsdam Conference to negotiate with Stalin. All of this is happening while internal security heavily suspects that Soviet spies are already inside the camp. This all leads to July 16, 1945. Pre-dawn, a massive storm threatens the test. By 5:30 a.m., a final deadline is scheduled as the weather clears. T-minus 60 seconds, the final countdown begins. And at 0, the bomb successfully detonates. It was a nerve-wracking warning. A weather delay pushed the countdown to the absolute brink. Imagine that, tense, dead silence falling over the desert bunkers. Then, a successful, blinding explosion. It's a moment of unprecedented human achievement, a flash of light that outshines the sun, followed by a shockwave that changes the course of human history forever. But that scientific triumph is immediately overshadowed by the terrifying reality of what they've just unleashed upon the world. As Oppenheimer watches that monstrous pillar of fire rise into the pre-dawn sky, his thoughts turn to ancient Hindu scripture, and now I am become death, destroyer of worlds. Almost immediately, the weapon is taken completely out of the scientist's hands and deployed by the military. Section 5. The Atomic Aftermath. Following the devastating bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Oppenheimer's perspective shifts radically. The public is celebrating him as a hero who ended the war and brought the boys home, right? But internally, Oppenheimer is quietly consumed by the agonizing reports of radiation poisoning and mass civilian casualties in Japan. This sets up a massive ideological collision. On one side, we have Oppenheimer's view. He promotes international cooperation and strongly opposes the H-bomb. On the other side, Teller and Strauss's view. They demand H-bomb development for Soviet deterrence. Oppenheimer uses his immense post-war fame to advocate against an arms race, which places him directly at odds with hawkish figures like Louis Strauss. While Strauss and Teller argue that developing the infinitely more destructive hydrogen bomb is the literal only way to deter the Soviets, Oppenheimer is pushing hard for international transparency and planetary arms control. His ethical pleading just falls on totally deaf ears. It all culminates in a disastrous Oval Office meeting, where Oppenheimer says, "I feel that I have blood on my hands." President Truman actually dismisses him as a crybaby. Truman makes it brutally clear that the guilt belongs to the president who dropped the bomb, not the scientist who built it. From this exact moment on, Oppenheimer's political influence begins to seriously wane as he repeatedly clashes with the military-industrial complex. Section 6. The Political Downfall. Which brings our story full circle, right back to those rigged security hearings of 1954. Driven by the paranoia of the McCarthy era and the shocking revelation that Klaus Fuchs was indeed a Soviet spy at Los Alamos, the atmosphere in America has turned incredibly toxic. The Soviets have tested their own bomb, and Washington is demanding a scapegoat. This was a rigged proceeding through and through. No evidentiary rules apply. The defense is denied access to classified files, the prosecution uses secret audio recordings, and it is entirely organized to destroy Oppenheimer's credibility. William Borden's letter triggers this kangaroo court designed purely to revoke Oppenheimer's security clearance. The prosecution, led by Roger Robb, just springs secret intelligence on him, like decades-old recordings of his private conversations about his friend Håkan Chevalier, cornering him into contradictions and brilliantly painting him as a liar. But the ultimate twist in this thriller? The shadow of Louis Strauss. Strauss, nursing a bitter, long-standing grudge over a past public humiliation regarding isotope exports, orchestrated the entire betrayal. During an earlier congressional hearing, Oppenheimer had actually mocked Strauss's lack of scientific knowledge, joking that isotopes were less useful than a sandwich. Well, the truly vindictive, it turns out, are as patient as saints. As Louis Strauss noted, amateurs seek the sun, get eaten. Power stays in the shadows. Strauss weaponized Oppenheimer's past, his associations with Jean Tatlock, the Chevalier incident, to systematically destroy the scientist without ever leaving his own fingerprints on the knife. He used Borden to write the accusatory letter to the FBI, triggering the hearing, while pretending to be Oppenheimer's sympathetic, concerned ally the entire time. In the end, the verdict comes down: security clearance revoked. Oppenheimer is stripped of his clearance, stripped of his voice, becoming a martyr to the very political machine he helped empower. The man who brought quantum physics to America and delivered the atomic bomb to end World War II is deemed unfit to serve his own country. He's exiled to a quiet life, his legacy forever stained by the paranoid mechanics of the Cold War. So, will the day come when people curse the name of Los Alamos? We are left to ponder this unstoppable chain reaction. Did the man who gave us the power to destroy ourselves also trigger the political mechanics that guarantee we eventually will? This continuous thread, from a brilliant theoretical mind dreaming of dead stars to a battered political exile, reminds us that scientific triumph and human tragedy are so often just two sides of the exact same coin.